All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our fourth episode of What in the World. I'm here today with Judy. So grateful to be here again.
Hooray!
So, really tuning into this moment of now. What's been up in your world, Judy?
Well, there's been an awful lot going on for me and my clients this week, as well as a lot of friends and family. So one of the things I'm noticing more than ever is the um, the awakening of people to their nervous systems and to what's going on in their nervous system and what's causing them to act in ways that are even mysterious to them. So what I've been noticing a lot more of is when we're mid action and we're in the middle of noticing what we're in the middle of doing. So the awakening and awareness that I'm noticing on an individual level, on a community level in my immediate community, and then when I look up at the global level, when I'm noticing like we're really literally in the middle of something and we're looking at ourselves going, what are we doing? Why am I doing that? What is it that's causing me to do that? So certainly when I look out in the media and different things that are happening, you can see globally we're doing kind of the same thing. We're kind of looking and scratching our heads like, what are we doing? And that's a healthy questioning in my estimation, is that when it's a part of the awareness and the awakening is when we can be a bit reflective and notice, what is it that we're doing? Is it getting us where we want to go? What adjustments can we make, if any? But the most important part of all of it is to stop judging the heck out of ourselves while we're doing it, right? Because the judgment doesn't actually help anything. In fact, it sort of hampers us because it gets in the way of the next intelligent question. If we stop to judge ourselves for what we just did, instead of just going, well, it's okay. It's okay that it's okay that we're doing that. It's okay that we just notice that we're doing that. Now, what are our choices? What else, what else is possible? What else can we do here if we're not comfortable doing this anymore? So that's one of the biggies. How about you, Christine? What has been floating around for you this week?
Well, quickly speaking to that, I sometimes call that phase being consciously unconscious. And
Yeah.
it's the toughest phase, right? It's the window where you're like, oh, I can see what I'm up to, or I can see what I'm doing. So for me, say this past week, yeah, I noticed some old behavior patterns of reaching out or trying to figure out what's going on in other people's lives or in their mental
Right.
fields or in their emotional bodies, almost as a way to navigate myself. Almost the old pattern of I'm in an environment, say as a kid, if I'm in an environment I can't change too much, right?
Yeah.
Then I'm going to be looking for, how do I adapt to this? What's coming? What is each person thinking, feeling, and doing? And how am I going to, creatively maneuver in the environment? And what I'm obviously now acknowledging is that I'm choosing my environment, and I have that capacity to get in a car and drive and choose the friends and choose the interactions with family and all of that. So there's way more agency. And so in that, I don't need that old program of scanning and monitoring and checking in with everything and everyone to see how I'm going to show up, or what they need of me, or what's going to create the easiest time in the interaction, right? It's essentially finally getting to let that go and actually know what it's like to come in and be in my heart
Mm.
and feel safe enough to really rest there, rather than I'll tap in, oh, need to go into the mental field to tune in. Now it's finally I can like actually know what it's like to come in and feel my own energy
Mm.
and acknowledge the gift of that.
Beautiful. Thank you for saying it that way, acknowledging your own energy and like actually being with it. One of the things I notice is that the more I am actually minding my own business, that doesn't mean not interacting with people, by the way. That doesn't mean isolating. And, that literally means like being so aware of me and my energy and what's going on for me, and less concerned of what's going on for everyone else. And again, that doesn't mean ignoring or dismissing it. It just means giving an equal amount of attention to what's going on for me than what's going on outside of me. When that starts getting equal airtime, this weird thing happens for me. And I've been hearing this a lot from folks around me as well, where you actually go through a little bit of mourning, or like there's an absence of something. There's an absence of like you being constantly aware of what the heck is going on for everybody else. And so it feels very weird. And what I've been experiencing is people even that are quite close to me, as I am more tuned into me, I went through a period where I almost felt as though I was like being disloyal or something, because I wasn't so closely tuned into them, as if I really needed a cognitive understanding of what's going on for them in order to know what's going on for them. I mean, I can know them. It's a little bit like, you know, like a mother and a child's cry, where she can be dead asleep, but if her child is in distress, she'll just wake up and she'll just know and she'll just attend to it. It's like coming to that point of trust that as a mothering energy, that I can actually go to sleep. I am going to wake up if there is distress that requires my attention. If it doesn't require my attention, I will not wake up. I will not need to wake up and go attend to it. But I don't have to sleep on pins and needles and just what I call hover sleep, right? Where you're not really going into a deep, restorative, regenerative sleep, just in case anyone might need me, or just in case I don't at all times know what's going on for everyone that I care about, or everyone that I love, or everyone that I want to contribute to, which would be like the whole planet. So that's not very restful. And I wouldn't at all have described to anyone that I felt that I was doing that. And I wouldn't also have felt that like I wasn't getting sleep and so on and so forth. But now that it's beginning to shift, my sleep has definitely changed. My day-to-day has absolutely changed. So many parts of my experience have changed because there's this whole other thing that I was doing, but I was doing it like actively. I was actively involved in it happening, rather than just knowing and allowing and understanding that if there's any point where I need to be actively involved, that will always be happening. It will always come to the forefront of my attention, rather than sort of the outskirts of my attention. It will always come, and I will always respond. I'm never not going to pick up the baby when it's crying, right? And just that level of, I might use the word trust, but I'm not even sure, that might be a slight bastardization of the word, because it's not even a trusting in something. It's just I'm beginning to actually actively experience that moment by moment, where it's getting a lot quieter. And it was already pretty quiet, but it's getting even quieter, where you almost feel like you don't know, except you actually are going into a deeper knowing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love what you brought up at the very beginning when you spoke about the nervous systems and untangling patterns in the nervous system, because those were instituted so early in life. And for us to consciously unravel the pattern or repattern or institute new patterns and new response patterns, you know, linking to what you just spoke of, it's like if at one time it was instituted this need to always be tuned into those around us so we could predict and anticipate and plan and know. And it was more a safety or even a fear-based tendency of, these people are a little crazy. If this thing in them gets activated, I don't know what's going to happen. So I have to moderate everything to ensure that that doesn't occur, because I don't want to be around when that suppressed rage comes up, you know, that kind of energy, right? Whereas we're now, through our own agency and vibration, choosing environments that are different. And if those energies are present, that's their energy, right? We're not the children saying everything other people do around me is because of me.
That's right.
Enough awareness to go, oh, I'm in choice. They're in choice, whether they're aware of being in choice or not. And what comes through them is an indicator of where they're at on their journey. What comes through me as my response patterns is an indicator of where I'm at on my journey. So the level of reactivity is just the level of no choice universe functioning, right? Where it just kind of happens. And when we wake up to choice, there's often this sensation of having more time to respond to everything that occurs, rather than this rushed knee jerk. It's more like I can choose how I respond, instead of they press button, I act out. They press button, how do I feel about that button? What would I like to choose here? That's interesting. Oh, this is what I'm noticing. You know, there's more opportunity to have different possibilities that we can move on, instead of this knee jerk or the button response that's
Yes.
wired into the nervous system. So as our nervous systems are releasing those patterns, sometimes through acting out what was being stored or held there,
Yes.
and something different can emerge.
Yeah, for sure. And the interesting part about, you know, feelings, you know, particularly I'm referring to emotions, is that we end up developing more of an emotional intimacy. And what I mean by that is that we're actually, we judge emotions less. So an emotion can come up, and we actually have a direct and very deep and intimate relationship with any given emotion, and the opportunity to take that relationship deeper at any moment. So we can say, oh, hello, red hot anger. Yes, I am familiar with you. I have felt you before. We have met other times. Sometimes I've been feeling it. Sometimes I've noticed other people feeling it, but I don't need to be afraid of you. I don't need to react to you. I can just go, oh, okay. It's okay that sometimes I feel rage. It's okay that sometimes people around me feel rage. That's okay. It's not right or wrong or good or bad. It's just, that's okay. And now what would I like to choose? We don't need to make it wrong that we felt it, or right that we felt it by justifying so-and-so made me feel that way. We can just really acknowledge that any emotions that are coming up like really strongly for us are usually giving us an opportunity to release our judgments about them. Because if we're afraid of rage, for example, we're going to oftentimes, or every time it comes up, we're going to go back into that space where we're judging whether that's good or bad or right or wrong. And we don't have a choice then. We have to, every time rage comes up, we have to run away. We have to judge it. We have to go into shame or blame or guilt or regret or something like that in order to sort of deal with it. When we could just say, oh, an old friend, rage. I remember this. I remember what this feels like. Excuse me, sorry. And we can just, okay, right, that's right. I get that. And it's okay. It's okay that I feel that. And it's okay sometimes that people around me feel that. It's not that when I know that someone around me is feeling rage, I don't have to do anything except, oh, I understand that they're feeling rage. We'll know if it's not safe.
Yeah, and it's really shifting from those learned response patterns, which is like, this is how my dad responded when there was sadness or anger. This is how my mom responded, or this is how my teachers responded. So where we would mimic their response patterns to emotions, and then essentially believed that we couldn't, quote, handle them or be present with them because they couldn't. So they must be so intense and bad and wrong that I can't sit with them. And then we learn, oh, wait, I have the capacity to be with emotion.
Yes.
I have the capacity to breathe into this and receive it, and even receive generative energy from and through the emotion.
Right.
So it's just totally untangling all the learned response patterns in regards to emotional regulation, because it was all of control and monitoring and suppressing or doing something to handle it rather than be with it. So we're really instituting this new way of, oh, I can just be with this. It's, quote, just an emotion in that sense, not belittling the emotion, but acknowledging I can be with this.
Right.
I have the system to be with it. I just learned to not be with it. And I'm retraining myself and my nervous system to receive and breathe into it. So many people have been taught to essentially hold their breath when intense emotions come. And that's just well, if this person held their breath, then I learned to do that too. Absolutely. Just like if this person smiles after they start crying, then I learned to smile out. And all these, confusing combo packs of expression.
Right. Yeah. Very confusing, because then also what happens when we operate in the world around us and we've got our autoresponders on based on what we learned overtly or covertly.
Yeah.
We've got these going on. So then when we go into another environment or meet up with someone else who responds differently to that emotion, then all of a sudden we're not totally sure how that works, and we can get very confused. a very vivid example of that is when I went, I think it was 2005, I took a trip to China, and I found, and we went to this variety show that it was like a cultural show that had all different types of, like in one large show that was a few hours, you had different samplings of different types of entertainment. And one of them was like a comedy show, almost like a Lucille Ball type comedy kind of piece. Now, of course, it was all in Mandarin, so I didn't understand the words. But, you know, they were practically pantomiming, like they were, it was really obvious what was going on, right? Whether you could feel the energy of it, you could hear the intonation, and you could see what was, you know, happening on the stage, so you could kind of tell what was going on. And the interesting part is that there was a lot of violence involved in the humor. So it was actually, they were playing out scenes of like domestic violence, and everybody was laughing, and I'm sitting there like, because I was taught that something different. I was taught something different. And so therefore it was like, oh, I can't, those two things don't match, because that's not funny. I'm sure in their culture it was funny, and I'm sure it didn't mean what it looked like it meant to me, because I was seeing through my cultural eyes, right? So it was just so interesting to see how even in the opera, the Chinese opera that we saw, what I perceived as the villain was actually the good guy. Right? He was actually the good guy. The way his mask was and his face was stern, and he was wearing red, to me looked like fierce, like a villain. I was speaking to some Chinese university students afterwards, and they were asking me, well, what did you think about it? And, you know, how did you enjoy it? And I said, well, I think I understood. And I kind of gave my opinion about what I thought was playing out, and they were giggling. And in fact, the entire time, the person I thought was the villain was the hero. Was the hero of the entire thing, because he saved face. He didn't lose face. And that was important in their culture, that you don't lose face no matter what's going on. And it looked to me like he was stern and refusing to smile. So just a small example. Now, those are two cultures literally on opposite sides of the planet, but that happens when you just even go from your household over to your friend's household when you're like 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 years old. Like you're entering a whole other culture, a whole other domain, and some things might be similar and some are different, and then things start to get really confusing after that, because you're used to this operational mode in your tight-knit family, and then your extended family, and that's pretty much your world. And then you start going to school, and there's other things, and then you start expanding and going to friends' houses and so on. And as your world opens up, a few things can happen. You could actually have more choices, because you're like, oh, they do things different here, that's cool, I could explore that. Or if it's so deeply ingrained, it might actually start crashing, like it starts bashing into each other. Like with the opera, I thought that was funny. With the domestic comedy, but then the violence being used, I was like, whoa, that was challenging me, right? It was challenging me. So no matter what, I still wasn't, even if it would have been explained in English all the way through, even if it was funny, I would not allow myself to find that funny, if that makes sense, just because where I was coming from, it's like, no, that does not compute. My nervous system will not accept that. Right? So imagine then you go into the world and you're at, your friend's house and you're playing, and things that you're not allowed to do at your house, you're allowed to do there. And you're like, what's going on? Or vice versa, things that you can freely do at your house, you're getting clamped down on, or you're getting in trouble for at somebody else's house. And you're thinking, oh dear, I'm not in Kansas anymore, Toto. So you can take that you feel through your nervous system, you feel a different reaction, and then all of a sudden you're trying to reconcile what I felt in my family of origin and what I feel over here, and your world is either going to expand and have more choices, or it's going to contract and you'll have fewer, because now you're trying to please them and please them over there.
Well, and that's what's so beautiful about the choice to unravel the judgment, because if we decided that my way of responding is right,
yes,
other ways of responding are wrong, then when we're in those new, quote, households or environments or contexts, we'll be like, well, that's wrong. They should be controlling themselves. They're out of control. Or like, it's right to suppress, it's wrong to express. When there's judgment woven in, it adds this whole other dimension to it that doesn't give us the choice to change it. If we acknowledge, oh, that would work better. Oh, I like that.
Yes.
Well, they're so free. I feel so confined. Oh, I'll kind of take that into account and practice that expression, or breathing into it rather than tightening and, tensing against it. And especially as we're coming into so much change on a global scale,
Mm.
there can be the either conditioned response patterns or just this sense of how we should feel about things. And that's something to be aware of. For those of us who are empathic, we'll almost start, say, feeling sad about how things are going in the world, or feel
Mm-hmm.
upset, or I've noticed the reverse of, if I'm not feeling anything about it,
Right.
then I would go into, oh my goodness, do I not care?
Right.
Is there something, am I disconnected?
Right.
So there's almost this expectation of feeling something. And if
Yes.
we're not feeling enough or feeling the appropriate way, then we can even judge ourselves as uncaring or any of a whole range of things. So it is an art to really acknowledge, wow, I do have choice. What is my greatest contribution? What, essentially just beginning with what feels good to me. And it's like, okay, well, I'll feel my own energy. I'll feel this love or this sense of peace. I'll offer that and begin from that, and coming out of the judgment of how I should or shouldn't feel about what's going on in the world. And especially in those moments, if we were to make light of the intensity of, say, the violence, or just like you talked about that thing in China, if we were to just transfer that onto some world events right now, we'd be like, if you're laughing about this violence, that's like wrong. That's
Right.
not funny. That is serious stuff.
Yes.
Or if you're being really bogged down by it and basically not living and expressing your joy because of, is that really serving you and others? So it's such an art, and there is no right answer in that. And sometimes we can be seeking for that right answer or the way, and we come into, okay, it's actually just each of us choosing our way, our navigation with
That's
and
right.
through all of this.
And interesting you bring that up in with world events unfolding the way they are, and we don't even need to point at any one. I mean, because there's so many things unfolding all at once. So whichever one you're pointing at any given time, it can bring up so much for you about what you should feel or shouldn't feel about, or do I need to take that on and feel bad about it, even if that's not actually going on in my own life, even if it's not really impacting me beyond what I see on the news. If I don't let that impact me and carry it and wear it, then maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe there's something that lacks compassion in me, as opposed to you can see it and go, oh dear, my heart goes out to those who are going through that. And I also recognize that's not something I'm going through. What I'm actually going through is I'm going through observing that somebody else is going through that.
Yeah.
And then what am I going to do with that? And also, so the bogged down can be a reaction to what I'm seeing. And also the humor could be a reaction to that as well. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to do. It's so real and it's so raw and it's so painful for me. And I feel so helpless that I don't know what else to do. So I'm just going to make a joke about it. I'm just going to make light of it. And that's the way I'm coping with it, because maybe that's what I've learned to do. Neither way is wrong, and also neither way is right, but it may not be exactly what it looks like on the surface. The person who's joking may be the person just trying not to feel so deeply because it hurts, and the person wearing it and carrying it may be doing so out of a just a misguided sense of obligation, that if someone else is suffering, I should carry that suffering. I can't have it easy, or I can't have it light if I know that someone else is in a bad way. So it's just sort of, I guess each way is a way to explore. Like, it's not always what it looks like, is really what I'm trying to say. And we can't assume for a moment, no matter how much, and we'll go back to what we were talking about at the beginning, no matter how much we like to pretend we're like crawling into other people's worlds and we know what's going on. We don't. All we know is what it's like to try to crawl into other people's worlds and know exactly what's going on.
Right.
That's the experience we're having. We're not experiencing what they're experiencing, or we're not experiencing knowing what they're experiencing. We are experiencing what it's like to think that we know what everybody else is going through, while we're trying to avoid what we're actually going through.
Right.
Which what we're actually going through could be really anything. But as we go through the layers and really investigate, what is that reaction I'm having in my nervous system that was triggering me to go out and go external and try to like figure everybody else out, when truly maybe if I came back in and just went, well, maybe I'm trying to figure me out. Maybe I'm trying to figure out maybe I'm trying to tell myself something, but I think maybe the answer's out there. But what if I were to stay here and just let the answers emerge from within me over time? You know, one breath at a time, one moment at a time, and let the nervous system be soothed by your presence, because it becomes more excitable when we leave, because it's like, where are you going? Oh my God. And you can freak out even more because you've actually like left the baby unattended, right? And when you're out there trying to look for the answers somewhere else, like somewhere else in the world where the problems are happening and they're not here, or anywhere else into just somebody else's world, even sitting across having dinner from you, and you're eating and you're like crawling into their world, like trying to figure out what's going on for them. What you've done is you've left this body and your life completely unattended, and you're trying to do what you can to attend to someone else or someone else's life or someone else's predicament, thinking that if I can just figure out what that is, I will feel better. When really the truth of the matter is, if you come back home and you embody and you stay here and you attend to this, like sweep your own doorstep and flush your own toilet and brush your own teeth, chop wood, carry water, carry on, do what you're doing, you will be actually attending and administering a level of self-care that is your greatest contribution to everything and anything that's going on outside of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because then when our nervous system is relaxed, we can choose our response to one and everything in our life. But when our nervous system is in that, where are you? You're not here.
Yes.
And it will often act out that lack of presence and create more of those lack struggle type scenarios. So
absolutely. Yeah. So that's what's going on.
Yeah, that's what's going on in our world.
Just a little bit.
That's what's up in the world, really. Yeah, meeting our nervous systems and choosing different response patterns, essentially paving pathways and giving ourselves greater choice, and choosing to be home and then emit that transmission of wholeness rather than fragmentation. Yeah.
So before we conclude, Christine, one of the key questions that has come up this week in working in sessions with people has been like, well, how do I do that? Right. And that's something that I had to discover for myself as well. And it does shift and change a little bit, but something that can be helpful, like a starting point of like, how on earth, like if my knee-jerk response is to boom, go and do that. And I'm always like there. And then I think, okay, well, I see that I'm doing it, but what else do I do now? Like now I'm not sure what I could do. Something you could try would be to just breathe, right? Just start breathing. Literally, as soon as you notice you're doing something in a more responsive, or if you notice there's an elevation of the nervous system, or there's a panic happening, or just a response that seems urgent, right? Any sense of like urgency that's making you feel like you have to do something. You can literally just start breathing, just taking some nice, and just slow the breath to the degree that you can. And just take some nice, slow in breaths and slow out breaths, and slow in breaths and slow out breaths. And just with that intention that you're going to start like actually arriving where the breath is. So as you remember to breathe and then you follow the breath, you literally follow it straight back into your body. And then you're able to reconnect with your own body, with your own nervous system, and then just keep breathing, just stay there. And maybe that takes 2 minutes, maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it feels so nice that you want to just keep doing that. Maybe you want to hang out there for an extended period. And what we're really doing is just inviting ourselves to form a new habit, so that when we feel something, we don't just immediately hop out and externalize it, that we're just retraining. It's just like going to the gym. Like you don't just go to the gym one time. You don't brush your teeth one time. You do this a little bit every day. If you want to be fit, you go for walks. Maybe you take a yoga class. Maybe you go to the gym, do whatever. You maybe get busy with your grandchildren, or you do things that are actively using your body to stay active and fit. If you want to exercise awareness, then you'll need moments where you're exercising your awareness, literally, where you're actually building those muscles and getting used to it. I'm aware. Am I aware of where I'm at right now? I'm over there. I'm trying to figure out what's going on for Joe. But what if I were here, not even trying to figure out what's going on for me, just acknowledging what is going on for me? I'm feeling a strong compulsion to go figure out what's going on for Joe. Okay, that's okay. Can you just stay here and feel that compulsion? Feel that you're really feeling like going over there, and really feel what it feels like to just remain here instead of going there, and just breathe your way through it. Maybe it's deeply uncomfortable. Maybe you feel like you're going to crawl out of your skin if you don't go over there and get in Joe's body and figure out what's going on. What is he thinking? I've got to know, you know? And then you're just observing that. So as kooky as it sounds, it's really, it's a very, very simple fix, but it's like, just pop back in your body. What if you were to just stay right here and just breathe, and then just get used to what that feels like? And there's no wrong way to do it, and not really a right way to do it. So no matter how many times you find yourself venturing out, you're just going to gently, respectfully, and lovingly just invite yourself back in with your breath, and then just stay with your breath for as long as you want to, until you feel a bit of a settling, until you feel like, okay, I'm back. Okay, that was okay. Thank you for noticing. And I'm so grateful that I decided to do that, right? So the gratefulness and the love that you can cultivate for yourself is what encourages you to come back more often. Because if you notice yourself gone and you come back and you're like, that was so stupid, right? How eager are you going to be to come back next time? Because if you know when you come back home, if you're going to get told off or beat up, how eager are you going to be to go home? That's probably why you've taken off in the first place.
Right? Yeah, because you haven't created a safe home for yourself.
Right, exactly.
And we can actually each choose that, to create a safe home for ourselves, emotionally, energetically, mentally, because we are the ones that can choose to be home here in the body that we have, that we chose.
Yes, so, the loving home that you crave is the one you create for yourself.
Yeah.
And this is the home. I mean, literally, is there anywhere else that you've ever been since you arrived? This is your home. This body is your home, not your family of origin, not even the place where you currently, live and exist. Like, literally, your body is your home in this particular incarnation, in this life. This is where you live. Mm-hmm. So if you cultivate self-love and care and a safe and loving and secure home for yourself, then you don't have to look outside of you for anybody else to provide that for you. You'll never be without it, which is like one of the most sort of blessed, and I think it's really, I've been working with people for this is my 14th year of practice. I've never met anyone who's not looking for that. Yeah. They describe it in all different sorts of words, but every single person in their heart of hearts is looking to feel comfortable, safe, and loved.
Yeah.
And if we can cultivate that for ourselves individually, we can then share that with others, but we cannot find it outside of ourselves and expect that we're going to be able to maintain that. We've got to learn how to brush our own teeth, how to clean our own house, how to flush our own toilets, and how to cultivate love, caring, and safety for ourselves from within.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what opens the door to being able to receive it from others. So it does truly.
Absolutely.
So
yay. Okay, so that's us for this week.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And let's see what happens next.
Yeah, I wonder what in the world is coming next.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Have a great week.